Okay, so the topic, at least for our first um, class, is the new creation, okay, or the creation pattern. And why are we going to start with this? Because that's how the book of Genesis begins. And so we're going to look a little bit into that and review, because one of the most important elements that I have learned and adopted from God is repetition, right? Is constantly repeating and making sure that you remember and don't forget those elements that um, God likes to highlight, that through history and through time, because of culture, we forget that God is the creator and He is the one that designed everything and put everything in its place. And so, what better way to start off all the learning that we're gonna do it by studying creation, okay? And so a lot of stuff that I'm going to be teaching or sharing, comments, historical context, etc., is going to be mainly from these two books. The reason why I'm putting them in the PowerPoint is so that way you guys are able to, if you have questions, you can also go and check these out, and you can also look up the information that I'm presenting and validate it. Okay. Now, this picture is definitely not depicting God, but is depicting what I'm going to try to tell you right now. And so, in the beginning, in the Torah, it says that the word in Hebrew is bereshit, right? And um, the pastor or Pastor Gabriel has taught us that um, the beginning itself is highlighting what God had intended, right? What God had, if we're gonna describe it in something that we understand and we can um, analyze and digest this, God in His mind, right, thought and had everything perfectly put together, how it will be manifested and how it was going to be put to function. Okay, so Bereshit opens up by demonstrating to us how does God design everything, right? And it came um, in that sense from uh, the mind, right? Now, obviously, that is um, a an interpretation because we don't know literally how it came to being and the steps and how detail everything came to be, but we have what God put in Genesis. Okay, and so in the Hebrew, it highlights in the beginning, meaning in God's mind, right? Uh, what was manifested through Genesis 1 and concluding Genesis 2 3 is how God saw everything in its mind. Okay, so this is the beginning, right? And that's how Genesis is describing it. Okay, and then from here, right, we learn that God said, "Let there be light." Okay, so mindset or mind speaks, words manifest. Okay, now it says Genesis 1 1 2, Genesis 2 3 is a intricately crafted narrative whose form serves its message, and that message is clear. One transcendent being, God, designed the world, and his design was ordered, balanced, and good. Okay, so that's the most important element of all this, right? And here, just like you as individuals, Everything that you plan, you think, whenever you have it in your mind, it goes exactly how you intend it, right? Because in your mind, you have all the ideas and all the perfect scenarios that you would want to happen are in there, and you definitely think, okay, it's going to go exactly how I planned it. But the reality is that, at least in our case, not in God's case, but in our case, everything that we plan and we have in our minds, that we think that we will manifest exactly the way that we think it. Sometimes as we act it out, there's so many other elements that we don't consider, that sometimes things don't necessarily go our way or the way that we think, because we don't understand or recognize all the other variables that can impact our plan that we have in our mind. Okay. And so in the beginning, God was able to structure, design, in the example of in his mind, in his head, he was able to design everything and manifest everything, and everything that he manifested was put into order, balance, and it was good. Okay. And so Genesis 1 verse 1 through 5 says, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. Okay. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the face of the surface of the deep. Now the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, let there be light. And there was light. And God saw the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. God called light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning. It was the first day. Now, the Spirit of God, especially how Pastor has taught us, so that you can understand it a little better, is the Spirit of God. Pastor connects it to the idea, right? The ideal idea that God wants, right? So we go back, right? The ideal idea of God is manifested in his spirit, right? The spirit is that vehicle that is able to manifest God's idea. What does God intend? What does God want? Okay. And so in here, when God is looking at creation, when God speaks, right? The Spirit of God was hovering over the waters, and then God said, let there be light. The Spirit is what guides the Word, right? In this case, the manifestation of let there be light, to manifest light that was good. Okay? So the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters, and God said, let there be light. And there was light. It was good. Okay? And the vehicle for the Word manifesting light, and light that is good, is the Spirit. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay. So it says, first day. Now, from the first day here, which is Genesis 1, verse 1 through 5, we're going to jump to Genesis 1, 14 to 19. Why? Because Genesis 1, 1, Genesis 1, 1, right? And which is depicting the first day. And then it follows with the second day and the third day, right? These first three depictions of creation are the design, meaning the blueprint of creation. So God is setting the blueprint, right? But what follows day 3, which would be day 4, 5, and 6, is the elements that are going to work and manifest in the blueprint, right? So God gives the identity or the the identity of creation, and then it starts um, manifesting it and give it function. Right. So in Genesis 1, we saw how God separated, right, the waters, said, "Let there be light," and there was light, and God saw that there was light, and it was good. He separated light and darkness, and God called light day, and darkness He called night. And there was evening, and there was morning. It was the first day. But then it says, and God said, let there be light in the vault of the sky to separate the day from night. Right. So here we start seeing the full manifestation of the first command that God gives, right? So here he starts talking about all the elements that will go into this light, right? Said, let them serve as signs to mark sacred times, right? So now he's starting to give function and identity to this life that has been manifested, okay? And it says, and days and years, and let them be lights in the vault of the sky to give light on the earth, right? So now we're seeing that God gave the sun and the moon the function. It says, and it was so, and God made two great lights, the greater light to govern the day and the lesser light to govern the night. He also made the stars. God set them in the vault of the sky to give light on the earth, to govern the day and the night, and to separate the light from darkness. And God saw that it was good, and there was evening, and there was morning, the fourth day. Right? So you see how in the first 3 days there's a manifestation and a separation of new creation coming to life, right? And this is what we've been talking about for the immersions, right? The separation of light and darkness, separation of the waters, right? Is bringing forth new life. And now in days 4, 5, and 6, now that there's new life, there's a manifestation based on what God gives each design its function, right? And how it's going to work. So day 1, we saw the manifestation of separation from light and darkness. And in the fourth day, it's given a function. Okay? Now, we go back. And God said, let there be a vault between the waters to separate the water from water. So God made the vault and separated the water under the vault from the water above it. And it was so. And God called the vault sky. And there was evening, and there was morning, and the second day. Now, on the fifth day, God said, let the waters teem with living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the vault of the sky. So now he's saying, okay, now these two waters, the sky, and obviously the seas, are given functions. What? They're going to be the home, the place where birds are going to live, and fishes and all those water animals are going to live. Okay, so God created the greater creatures of the sea and every living thing which the waters teem that moves about in it according to their kind, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. God blessed them and said, be fruitful and increase in number and fill the water in the seas and let the birds increase on the earth. And there was evening and there was morning, the fifth day. Okay, so what I want you guys to pay attention is that in the process of creation, the most important element is God highlighting how He's the one that brought forth the Spirit. He's the one that brought forth the light, which later on we learn that is life. And He is the one that gave creation, each element, its function. Okay, and it was good. Okay, so since this moment, like I've said before, everything is working according to what God said was good because it's been given a design and a purpose, and it works the way that is described here is how it works in real life. You guys are witnesses to that. You go to the oceans, you see the fishes, you see the birds in the sky, you see everything working according to what it says here. Okay, now Go back. It says, and God said, let the water under the sky be gathered to one place, right? And let dry ground appear. And it was so, and God called the dry ground land, and the gathered waters he called seas. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, let the land produce vegetation, right? It says seed-bearing plants and trees on the land that bear fruit with seed in it, according to their various kinds. And it was so. The land produced vegetation, plants bearing seed according to their kind, and trees bearing fruit with seed in it according to their kinds. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the third day. Now, this part of the manifestation now is given a function. And God said, let the land produce living creatures according to their kinds. The living stock, the creatures that move along the ground, and the wild animals, each according to its kind. And it was so, and God made the wild animals according to their kinds, the livestock according to their kind, and all the creatures that move along the ground according to their kind. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, let us make man in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky. Remember that all these elements, remember that the home of the birds is the sky, the home of the fish is the sea. So now here God is giving man the authority over all these things. It says over the livestock and all the wild animals and over all creatures that move along the ground. Now it says, so God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and increase in number. Fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky and over every living creature that moves on the ground. Okay? Now, then God said, I give you every seed bearing plants. Okay? So he continues, he created the animals. Now we're going to see how he created the animals and humanity, and he's going to give us how we're going to survive in this case, right? And at least in the design that God intended. It says, I give you every seed-bearing plant on the face of the whole earth, and every tree that has fruit with seed in it, right? And they will be yours for food. Right? So this is the intended food for us, right? The seed from every tree, right? Every fruit that comes out of those trees, that is our food from the plants. And it says, and to all the beasts of the earth, and all the birds in the sky, and all the creatures that move along the ground, everything that has the breath of life in it, I give every green plant for food. And it was so. And God saw all that he had made, and it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning, in the sixth day. And so, in the first 6 days of creation, as we went back and forth, right, the point that I want you guys to understand and remember is that as God is putting everything into its place and is being manifested, God is giving it not only a name, an identity, but the only way that that element has life, it is not because it exists, but it's because it is given a function. Okay, so the new life that is coming, or that new creation, or the creation pattern, is based on the Spirit of God manifested through His Word, right? Which gives you a name that is only validated or manifested or brought to life if you are in function, right? And the only way that you will be in function and have an identity and have a name is if you're following God's word and have His Spirit. Okay? And so the design is there. So you have the Spirit, you need the Spirit, the word. If you have the Spirit and the word, then you have life. And you have a name worthy, right? Because God is going to give you a function. So it's not based on what you want to bring forth to the table or what you want to, it's what God gives and bestows upon you. Okay? Because everything in creation, as God said and manifested his word, whatever his idea was, right? His spirit, everything was waiting for him to dictate how everything was going to be. So the moons, the stars, the land, the seas, the animals, the birds, all of these things moved based on what God's spirit dictated and what his word dictated. Okay? Any questions? Clear?
No.
Okay. So it says, whereas we may be inclined to ask, then, the beginning of what, right? So that's the question. It says in the beginning, so in the beginning of what? Information from the Bible and the ancient Near East leads us in another direction, right? And this is John Walton from the Sunder Vam Illustrated Bible. It says in the Old Testament, the beginning, Reshit, refers to a preliminary period of time rather than the first in a series of events, right? It says this is comparable to an Akkadian restu, which means the first part or the first installment. In the Egyptian, and this word is zip, render the first time or the first occasion. In English, we might refer to such an initial period as the primordial period. Okay? Now, Egyptian texts use these phrases with various prepositions to refer to the period during which creation took place. Okay? Since Egyptians believed that creation was reenacted every day with the rising of the sun, they used this word to differentiate the first time that creation took place from the endless daily repetition of creation. Okay? It says the Egyptian phrase then refers to when the pattern of existence was established and first enacted. So this is very important, right? Because I think this is the best way that we can put into words what's happening in Genesis, right? The Egyptian phrased it this way: when the pattern of existence was established and first enacted, right? Meaning, this is the blueprint, this is how I built it, and this is how it's going to work perfectly. So, the way that creation will work perfectly, if you read Genesis 1:1 to Genesis 2:3, has God's Spirit, God's Word, and from there, everything receives its name and its function and an identity. Okay? And so it says all of these information leads us to conclude that the beginning is a way of talking about the 7-day period rather than a point in time prior to the 7 days. Okay, it says if creation is the act of bringing something into existence, okay, we must ask what constitutes existence. Right? In the ancient world, because remember, the text that we're reading in Genesis 1:1 to 2:3, we have to understand it always as God giving it to Moses in Mount Sinai, and understanding that, like we've spoken before, just like Israel right now is being revealed, their creation pattern and how everything came to be in that moment, like we just read, the Egyptians believed that creation happened every day, but they also had a day where everything was established. And from that moment that everything was established, then every day there's a new creation. Okay? So all their nations had creation narratives. And so, even though we're taking this by faith, saying, okay, guys, we go to the beach, we see how Genesis 1:1 is still manifesting. And when you are in, if you go to the woods, you're camping, you see how everything is manifesting. And so everything in creation is working according to its design and its function, and it was good. But they also have their own interpretations of these things. And God is saying, everybody has an interpretation, everybody has an opinion, okay? But you need to understand that your culture, like I said, your culture is not going to dictate how the design that I established from the beginning will work and work, because your culture is not going to be able to dictate that. I dictate that. And so in Genesis 1:1, I'm going to give you the elements that were able to bring forth light from darkness, to bring order into those chaotic waters, which was his spirit and his word. Okay? It says, in our culture, we consider existence to be either material, and then obviously it goes into a very technical, having molecules taking up space, extending to energy and subatomic particles. But those definitions, however, are culturally determined, right? So that's how culturally we see existence, right? But in the ancient world, something existed when it had a function and a role to play, which is something that I want you guys to understand from creation, right? The most important element, besides God being the creator, is that when God created everything, that new creation, that new life, has to have a function and a role to play in God's design. Okay? So, in Mesopotamia, one way to accomplish this was to name something, because a name designated a thing, its function, or role. Thus, in the Babylonian creation account, bringing the cosmos into existence begins when on when on high no name was given in heaven, nor below was the netherworld called by name. In Mesopotamia, one way to accomplish this was to name something, okay? Because name designated things, function, and role. Thus, in the Babylonian creation, I already read this, when no gods at all had been brought forth, none called names, no destinies ordained, then there were the gods formed. In the earlier Gilgamesh and Enkidu and the netherworld, the first couple of lines read, after heaven had been moved away from the earth, after earth had been separated from heaven, after the name of man had been fixed. Okay, so the naming of elements and naming of things was a key part of their creation narrative, because the name will follow the function or the representation of set manifestation. Okay, so a name is key. That's why you see that God is saying day, night, the lesser light from the bigger light, the seas, right? Because all these things God is giving the name, identifying them based on the culture, and giving it its proper function. So when you see the seas and you see the creatures in the seas and you see the birds in the sky, you're not intimidated by them. Why? Because in creation, God gave you this design and authority that if you stick to the design, which is His Spirit and His Word, right, you're able to tap into God's Spirit, or in what we've been talking about, God's idea, right? His ideal idea, meaning that you seek His will first, right? In other words, and by seeking His will and manifesting His will, then creation responds to you. right? Because that authority that has been given to you over creation is only manifested if you have all the elements of creation. So you are men, right? Male and female, we were created. You were given dominion over creation, but the only way that you were given dominion over creation is if you were aligned with God's spirit and his word, because those are the two elements that brought forth everything. And once you're aligned with those two things, then God is the one that gives you your role and your function. And when you have a role and a function in creation or in God's kingdom, you are alive. You exist. But as long as you're not aligned to those things, then you're not alive, right? So as that we go into those things that we've been talking about in class, where there's you can be alive and you can be doing your thing, but in God's presence, you're dead, right? Because you're not living according to what He considers life and existence. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. If you guys are confused, let me know. I want to keep going. You are lost. It says in Egyptian accounts, existence was associated with something having been differentiated. Okay, the god Atum is conceptualized as the primordial monad, the singularity embodying all the potential of the cosmos, from whom all things were separated and thereby created. Very interesting, right? The Genesis account includes both these concepts as God separates and names. Okay, and then I liked how it describes it here, right? It says the Egyptian account existence associated with something having been differentiated, right? That's what we call being set apart or being holy, right? In the moment that you become set apart or being holy, you're differentiated, but you are given a manner of existence, right? And the most important existence that you desire is existing in God's presence because He's the giver of life. And so if you are set apart, if you differentiate yourself, not in the way that you push away, because remember, each element in creation, even though it's separated to do its function, it doesn't it doesn't, how do I say this? It doesn't um, take away from the seas benefiting the land and the land benefiting from the seas and the trees benefiting from the land and the rain. You know what I mean? Nature itself, even though it's separated into its own function and purpose and identity, it complements each other, right? So because you differentiate yourself or because you set yourself apart doesn't mean that you're gonna disconnect completely from humanity. It means that in your role, in the case of being a son of God or a believer in God or a follower of God's word, you falling in line with your identity and your function and your existence and existing in God's presence is going to be able to impact those that not necessarily are or are seeking at least. And so your ability to make yourself set apart will make you uh, um, exist in God's presence, right? Because that's the element which He is recognizing that you are making an effort to manifest His kingdom. It says the actual Hebrew word create, bara, which is the word used to say separate or put into function, says also focuses our attention in this direction. In the Bible, only God can perform this action of bringing something into existence. What is even more intriguing is that the objects of this verb point consistently towards its connection to the functional existence rather than the material existence. Okay? This is much like the ancient Near Eastern way of thinking that it was more important to determine who controlled the functions rather than who or what gave something its physical form. In the ancient world, something was created when it was given a function. Allen captures this common ancient perspective when he summarizes Egyptian thinking by observing that the Egyptian explanation are more metaphysical than physical. In the ancient world, the cosmos is less like a machine and more like a kingdom. Okay? And so humanity today sees creation and the world as a machine that has parts and elements that can be used to our own advantages or disadvantages. Okay, but in reality, the ancients recognized that nature itself was the manifestation of their kingdom, right? Their deities manifesting, right? Obviously, their idea of um, maintaining their kingdom and creation was much different than what we're learning, right? Which is God is the king in this example, and creation is the kingdom. And the law that God established in his kingdom is based on his spirit and his word. And that those that accept his spirit, just like in Genesis, and manifest his word will receive a name and an identity, and they will be existing. Existing, most importantly, in God's kingdom. Now, does the world recognize God's kingdom? No, because they take it for granted, right? Because we grow up in a society where nature and creation is something that we believe is ours, right? That we're entitled to it, right? And what God says, as long as you understand that you're not entitled to it, but that I have given it, not because you are deserving of it or because you are entitled to it, but because I have given you the design and the function of being my image, meaning you carry my image when it comes to my spirit and my word in my kingdom, which is nature in this example. Okay, so we're almost done. We're almost done. Almost there. It says this is where we're gonna review. Any questions as of right now? Everybody clear?
No. Yeah.
Ariana, clear?
Yes.
Elias,
Yes, sir.
Judy?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, so now we're gonna review this. We talked about a little bit about it in class, but we're gonna review a little bit. It says John 3, verse 1 through 5 say, now there was a Pharisee, a man named Nicodemus, who was a member of the Jewish ruling council. He came to Jesus at night and said, Rabbi, we know that you are a teacher who has come from God. Okay, for no one could perform these signs you are doing if God were not with him. Okay, Jesus replied, very truly I tell you, no one can see the kingdom of God unless they are born again. How can someone be born when they are old? Nicodemus asked. Surely they cannot enter a second time into their mother's womb to be born. Jesus answered, very truly I tell you, no one can enter the kingdom unless they are born of water and spirit. Now, again, we have to connect the element of water and the element of spirit with Genesis 1:1, because the one that manifested or creation came from the waters, right? The separation of light and darkness, and the waters from above from the ones from below. Okay, and the element that was able to do all this was the spirit and the word. And so the recognition that Yeshua is given here, right? It says, we know that you are a teacher who has come from God, for no one could perform the signs you are doing if God was not with him. The element that Yeshua has here is obviously the waters, right? Because he was baptized or immersed. We saw the Spirit of God over him, meaning that God had pleasure in saying, "This is my son," and Yeshua would follow by promoting and carrying God's word. And so Yeshua right now is becoming like Adam in creation. Adam, before he sins, he is an image bearer of God. So Adam is not saying, I want to imply or implement what I think and how I see things. Adam in creation is created as a male in that case, and he is the representative of God. And he knows that God, through the Spirit and the Word, has given him an identity and a function to rule over creation, right? Without forgetting that God is his creator. And Yeshua, as he taught, he recognized that after he was immersed, right, he became a new creation, right? And his new creation, he was given a new name, right? And he was Yeshua, Son of God, and God had given him an identity and a function. And Yeshua carried God's spirit, which is God's idea, his intended design. And how we manifest God's intended design? Through his word. And so Yeshua is manifesting God's spirit through his words and his actions. Okay? And he's giving all these elements function. They're not just things that are in the air or they're superstitiously in the air, like, oh yeah, this could happen. No, he's making them happen based on his faith in God, his obedience in God's word, and recognizing that God's kingdom is over what man and culture dictates. Right? Culturally, there was a understanding of how things were supposed to be and how things were going to be. And Yeshua says, I come as a witness to the kingdom of heaven, which is here. And through that faith and consistency and ability to recognize God, then creation responded to Yeshua and through Yeshua. Okay? Now, Nicodemus doesn't understand this because he has forgotten Genesis 1:1. It says, how can this be? Nicodemus asked. You are Israel's teacher, said Jesus, and do you not understand these things? Very truly I tell you, we speak of what we know and we testify to what we have seen. But still, you people do not accept our testimony. I have spoken to you of earthly things, and you do not believe. How then will you believe if I speak of heavenly things? No one has ever gone into heaven except the one who came from heaven, the Son of Man. Now, we're going to go to Proverbs 30, which is interesting. And obviously, there's not a lot of information on the author, Agur, son of Yekhe. Is there not, besides this proverb, they're not named in the Bible as a whole. And based on what I was reading in the Sundervam Illustrated Bible commentary, there's more connections through their names and connecting them through their lineage. And the information that I saw was that they were supposedly connected to Ishmaelites, okay, and Assyrians, if I'm not mistaken. But besides that, this proverb, we're going to pay attention to what it says, okay? It says, the sayings of Agur, son of Yake, an inspired utterance, says, this man's utterance to Ethiel. I am weary, God, but I can prevail. Surely I am only a root, not a man. I do not have human understanding. I have not learned wisdom, nor have I attained to the knowledge of the Holy One. Who has gone up to heaven and come down? Whose hands have gathered up the wind? Who has wrapped up the waters in a cloak? Who has established all the ends of the earth? Who or what is his name? And what is the name of his son? Surely you know. So here he's asking these questions, seeking wisdom, seeking the counsel of God in this case. It says every word of God is flawless. Okay. He is a shield to those who take refuge in him. Do not add to his word, or he will rebuke you and prove you a liar. Two things I ask of you, Lord, do not refuse me before I die. Keep falsehood and lies far from me. Give me neither poverty nor riches, but give me only my daily bread. And it's interesting because what does Joshua says? Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God. But in his prayer, he says, give us our daily bread. Recognizing humbly who is the creator and understanding that Genesis 1:1, as we've been talking about, manifested the point that we need to remember, okay, which is the beginning was the spirit, which is the idea, right? And the reason why I'm saying the idea is so that way you guys have a easier way to understand, because obviously the word spirit is very deep, and people give it personification, but is more than just a person. Okay, it's deeper than that, because it's something that internally connects to God's being, which is big. Okay, so the simplest way that we can conceptualize this, so that way we can little by little understand certain things that are being said, is the spirit. We're gonna label it as the idea, right? Now the word is the manifestation of the idea, right? Understanding that me and you have a spirit, but there is God's spirit, right? So me and you have ideas, but then there's God's idea. Okay, that makes sense. So understanding that we have an idea, me and you have perfectly good ideas, we come up with great plans, but God's idea and God's plan definitely better. Okay, and so the way that we're able to manifest our individual ideas is through our words, right? We think it, we plan it, and then we say what we're going to do, and we start manifesting our plans and our ideas through our words and then our actions. We think it, we say it, we act it. That's how we live constantly. Oh my God, I can't say that. That's how we live. Now, that's our design, but our design is not so much for us to work based on our ideas and our words and our actions. Is based on us being able to understand God's idea and adopt them, and understand and adopt God's words, so that we're able to manifest God's ideas and words. Okay, and then in that process, we're given a new name. We're a new creation. We're born again. Okay, and that name that we're given is the one that we receive with the idea, right? With the spirit, with the word, because now you become part of God's kingdom and you don't become your own individual entity. Like a lot of people say, every person is their own world, right? In Spanish, it sounds, I think, a little better. Right? Cada persona es un mundo. Well, in reality, we're not called to be individual worlds. We're called to be one body, one world, one design creation that is manifesting God's idea and God's word and manifesting that name that we're given, right? That is higher than our name, which is God's name. Okay? Right, so as soon as you receive his spirit and his word, you receive the name. Okay? And then we are given our function and existence, which is tied to the spirit, the word, and the name. That makes sense?
Yes.
Simple? Any questions?
Yes. No.
Okay, so I want you guys to keep these in mind here, because this is how we're going to build upon our future classes. So, new creation, or the creation pattern, is tied to God's spirit, God's word, God's name, and the function. And as long as we're able to structure and identify God's spirit, God's word, God's name, and the function that comes with that, then we're all going to be able to manifest that which Yeshua said, being born again. Because being born again goes over what you internalize as your idea, your words, your name, what you think you have come to this world to be. Because we all have in our mind what we're called to be. This is like my ideal. Like for me, I was like, oh, I'm meant to be a professional soccer player, and I'm gonna make, my mom, my family's name great. But that was my idea. That's what I thought was gonna be the ideal, but it's not. It was not. Right? The idea was God's idea, right? And His Spirit and His Word brought me here, right? And this is greater than being a professional soccer player. Why? Because I'm able to help you guys be better, and then eventually, hopefully, you guys adopt the same thing. Not my idea, but God's idea, which is to make others better and have a name and a function in God's kingdom, which is much better than fame and riches and all that, right? That's what Yeshua said. No, I don't need that. I don't need your fame, your riches. I don't need to make magical rocks turn into bread, because I have God and I have His Word. And through His Word and His Spirit, everything came to be. And so that's all we have for today. If you guys don't have any questions, we will stop it here.